Hello. This is a tutorial for getting started in Solar System Exploration 2, because the tutorial endgame is very outdated. So you're gonna spawn right there, and what you want to do is you're gonna go get a plot. Sometimes you'll spawn in South America, but it's pretty much the same thing there. Usually for a ship, at this point in the game, I just put 3 engines in this arrangement right here. And then I place a control panel on the front here. And then I place a crate. And this is a bit excessive. This can be a bit excessive depending on what you're gonna do. I'd usually place like 25 propane tanks on the crate. So and that's 25. So you don't have to get all of this. Usually it's just nice to have a lot of fuel in my opinion. But so what you want to do is you want to saw off this crate, and then you'll still have the fuel, as you can see right there, I have 500 liters of fuel, but it won't be weighing down your ship at all. So, after you make your ship, you need to make money. So, there's 2 ways to make money. I'll show you the first way, but it's not the best way. So you just fly over here to the moon. Might take a minute. Okay, so we're here at the moon. What we're gonna look for are these little rocks right here. They're called Moonstones. Just gonna pick these up. You can hold 3 at a time. So once you get 3, you just fly back. And then you go into here. Or if you're in South America, you go to, I think her name is Stothchild, and then you press I'm here to sell, and 3 Moonstones will get you 1,050, which should be enough to first refuel your ship. That cost me like 56. And then you don't have to buy this, but I think it's nice to have the Nibiru tracker. It's just convenient because you get to see where it is. See, it's pretty far away. And then, what I like to do is see if I can afford 5 terraformers, which I cannot. But if I do happen to have enough for 5 terraformers, I'll usually grab them and go place them on Mars. But the second way to make money, it's pretty far away. You want to fly to, I think it's Miranda. It's that tiny moon around Uranus. That's really close to it, like the closest to it. This will take a minute, and you will need a lot of fuel. That's why I put 500 liters of fuel on this ship. Okay, so once you're here, you do not want to get out of your ship, or else so jumping on this planet is lethal. You will fall into Uranus and you will die. So you want to look for these right here, these blue rocks. They're called shock stones, and they sell for quite a pretty penny. So you just want to fly around looking for them. You want to make sure you don't drop below 50% fuel, because you will. What was I gonna say? Well, if you have 500 liters of fuel like I did, you don't want to drop below 50%, because it takes a little less than 50% fuel to make it here. So you're gonna want to be able to make it back too. Once you get like 4 shock zones, or once you start running fairly low on air like that, you kind of want to fly back to Earth. But shock zones are extremely valuable. See, I just got like 8,000 from those 4. There's another way. There's another way to get shock zones. So pretty much, you want to go flying to Mars. Okay, now that we're here, you don't want to land. You want to like start flying around the planet. You're looking for Phobos and Deimos. I think that's the names. There's one of them right here. So what you want to do is you want to kind of fly into them like that, and then they should start hurling towards Mars. Hold on, I'll have you watch this one. And when you crash one of them into Mars, it just, all it does is give Mars rings, which is pretty nice. It's pretty. But once you crash the other one into Mars, which is right there, this one is a bit harder because it's a lot smaller. Also, you want to be careful throwing these into Mars, because it will reverse terraforming by a lot. So once there's 2 of these, I'm pretty sure Mars's rings go away. I'm not sure. But once you crash both moons into Mars, Mars will actually get another moon that you can land on. It takes a minute to generate though. So, I'll come back to this. Just keep it in mind. What's the other way? Okay, there is another way to make money. I don't think it's a very good way, cause you have to like invest in it, kinda. And it takes a bit of fuel to get where you need to be. Oh, here's South America over here. If you spawned here, it's pretty much the same. That's the person you sell stuff to, and that's the person you buy colony stuff from. And the refuel station is over here. So, while we wait for that moon to form, there is another way to make money. I'm not particularly fond of it, but what you want to do is buy some explosives, which can be a bit expensive, so if you want to do that, I would recommend going to the moon for Moonstones, or maybe to Miranda for Shockstones first. But after you get those explosives, you want to fly to Mercury. Again, this might take a minute. Oh, you can see the moon over there. It's formed now. Alright, we're here. So as I said, I'm not particularly fond of this method, but some people do it, and it does work. So, you just want to place a bunch of the explosives on the surface of Mercury. And then they will explode into a bunch of rocks. You can't pick up the square rocks, only the rocks that have like an actual proper shape to them. So most of the time you'll get just Mercury rocks, but sometimes you'll also get core rocks, and the core rocks sell for the most. And again, these also have no stack limit like the shock stones. Okay, so now that we're here, you want to refill your ship like usual, and then you want to sell the rocks. And it does make you a profit, but you still did have to, still have to spend money on the explosives. So again, I'm not particularly fond of that method, especially because it relies a bit on chance, but it works. That's what I would go for if Miranda was being a bit competitive in the server, which usually doesn't happen. So, now we're gonna go to that Mars moon we made. Something about this moon is, like, it also has shock stones on it, like Miranda. In fact, it has a bit more, but it doesn't make them forever. It makes, like, a certain amount and then it stops, I'm pretty sure. But, in servers where people, like, really know about this moon, it's a bit competitive, to get the shock stones. So, it's a good option in lobbies with newer players or in private lobbies. But, if you're in a lobby with people who, like, really know about this moon, and, like, they're going to it, I would just go to Miranda. This is Alcaeus. It used to be called Typhon, and I think that was a better name, but, if you see people talking about Typhon, they mean Alcaeus. So in these little fissures here, shock stones will spawn, usually 3 at a time, sometimes 2, sometimes even 4, I'm pretty sure. So, you can clearly see it makes shock stones a bit faster and more of them than Miranda. But again, it's a bit competitive and it doesn't make them forever. Because it only makes them in the little fissures. And eventually it'll stop making new fissures. Means it'll stop making shock stones. But I have like 8 shock stones just from the very start of Alcaeus, and that's more than enough to get that. So that's pretty much every viable way of making money. There are 2 more ways I know of. One of them is the same thing on Mercury, except you do it on Mars, but you really do not want to do that, because it spawns like a Mars worm sometimes, which is very not good. And another way is, it also takes a bit of investment, but you can kind of place drills on the moon, and you can put a crate on your ship, and and you can put the metal from the drill into that crate using a metal transfer pipe. And you can sell that to, Eric or Softchild. So, let's see how much 8 shock stones gets us. Yeah, it gets us plenty. So, after doing any of these methods, you want to come over. Well, first you want to refuel your ship, obviously. I should have done that first. So, if you spawn in North America, you'll be talking to a guy named Kohler, who's in front of the Nibiru tracker. If you're not there, you're going to be like if you're here in South America, you're going to be talking to Rico in front of this brick building. So, technically, all you need is a drill and a factory and a prospecting pickaxe. Oh, whoops. So technically all you need is this drill and this factory, this prospecting pickaxe. And you can get this colony storage from chests that. But I like to buy more, like 3 drills and a junction. That's usually what I like to do. And then also 3 pump jacks and a junction. Like 3 pump jacks and a junction. And then 1 mil. And then I spend the rest on factories. Well, not the rest on factories, but I just buy like a fair bit of factories. And then I spend the rest of that on terraformers. Can I afford more? Alright. So, if you put a bunch of terraformers, it'll kind of lag the game a little bit. But it's usually fine. So if you still wanted more money, you could go back to Alcaeus or maybe Miranda, and they'll have more shock zones for you. If you had a choice, I would pick Alcaeus, because it makes more shock zones in less time. But if Alcaeus is competitive, I would go to Miranda. Now I'm gonna test something. I heard that you can place terraformers, you don't have to place terraformers on the surface, you can just place them in the sphere of influence. Oh, you can. That's cool. So, maybe let's say you want to colonize Venus. If you go there, it will melt your ship into rust, but, what I'm just figuring this out now, but I guess you can place the terraformers inside of the sphere of influence, which is, the sphere of influence, it's the gravity, and when you enter a sphere of influence, it'll put the name, like, on your screen. Okay, so, sometimes, I'll, like, wait for the terraforming to finish, because sometimes your base can get flooded by the water forming. But, it's not always the biggest worry, it's only been, like, bad a couple of times. So now you just want to use this prospecting pickaxe to find a place that has a lot of either a very high natural gas or very high metal. And if you can't find high or very high, then medium is fine. Actually, I'm gonna head back to Earth real quick, 'cause I need air. But if you need air, just go back to Earth. That's also part of why I sometimes wait for terraforming to finish, because it means that you get air on the planet. You don't have to worry about suffocating to death. Okay, I'm pretty sure this area peaks at high metal, so I'm going to place the drills on spots with high metal. And then I will place this first junction right here. Then I will click on the input pipes and click on the green squares on the drills. And then I will go activate the drills. That should be a fair amount of metal. And then you want to find somewhere that has like very low everything, really. Just so that you're not wasting any, like, particularly good spots for resources. Generally speaking, the more factories, the better, but you only want to have as many factories as you can support from your drills. Depending on, like, how many people are at your colony, you won't need as much metal. But if you're making the first colony, there's going to be a lot of people, so you're going to need a fair bit of metal. Again, if you need air, go back to Earth or wait till Mars is done terraforming. You could also bring a dome. The dome, it's like, well, it's a dome and you hook up a pipe to it, and it takes water to provide air inside of the dome, and you need one to colonize planets that can't be terraformed. Like, let's say you want to colonize Io or something, you would need to place a dome, and you would need to place the spawn inside of the dome, and you would need to put a pipe on the dome that has access to water, so that the dome can make air. Okay, I'm pretty sure terraforming is done, or almost done, because I can breathe. This place has very high metal and very high natural gas. I'll place the pump jacks right here. Previously, the pump jacks were called frackers. If you see someone calling them a fracker, that's what they're talking about. You only need natural gas for a mill and for a refueler, and those are fairly important, because you do need a mill to make, a spawn. Oh, and also get a jetpack is very handy. What I like to do for my, if you want a central depot that has all of your resources, I like to put mine way up in the air. So when you connect something to an input, you want to make sure that it actually works, because sometimes the inputs don't work, and sometimes they're broken. Sometimes. But as you can see, we have all of the resources that we need. And then we can just place the mill right here. Oh, and also after you get your central depot with all of your resources hooked up to it, you want to unhook your factories from that junction over there and put them onto the depot. Just because that's what it's for. Alright. So that's everything you need. Well, I guess you need a spawn. So you need to make, I think you need only 3 or 4 public factories and 1 public mill. But you should just make most of your factories public. It's just nice. Well, and then you place down your spawn. And then you colonize Mars. And you can do the same for any terraformable planet. You can just pretty much do that. Actually, hold on. Okay, you can only do this for Venus, Mars, and Titan, I'm pretty sure. Because those are the only ones you can, well, you can also terraform the moon and Ganymede, but the moon, most of the time it'll get destroyed by Nibiru. And Ganymede doesn't have any natural gas. You can only do this on Venus, Mars, and Titan. Titan is like that orange moon near Saturn, you can see it right there. Europa is also available for colonizing. It's one of the Galilean moons, I'm pretty sure. I think it's that one over there, I'm not sure. But for Europa, you will need to get a dome, because you cannot terraform Europa. I heard that just having your Europa colony will still cause an ending, but I'm really not sure on that. I guess if you want to colonize Europa first, just be cautious, I guess. Technically, you can also make a colony on Callisto, but if you place 4 or more drills on Callisto, the siphoning ship will come out of Callisto, which will fly to Earth and suck all of the water out of Earth, causing an ending, which is also not good. So, yeah, pretty much that's what it is. If you want to colonize a planet that is missing a resource, which is pretty much every celestial object other than Venus, Mars, Titan, Europa, or Callisto, there's a few ways to get the missing resources to them. Pretty much every, as far as I'm aware, everything other than the 5 I mentioned are only missing gas, except for Io, which is missing gas and water. There are 2 ways to connect them to another colony. So you can either, the first way, it's called junction chaining, or you can also use depots, but most people use junctions. So what you want to do is you want to get a junction, and then you want to connect it to your depot, and you want to connect another junction to that junction, and you can place them in the air, I'm pretty sure, anywhere really. So you just do that all the way to the other planet, it's a bit annoying. And the other way is using freecam, which is less annoying but a bit slow. So you select an input, then you press Shift P, and then you fly over there, and you find your mouse. I usually like to use the Windows key to find my mouse, but you can click on it and it'll connect. A good tip is W makes you move forward in freecam, but so does U, so you can hold both for a speed boost, which it's not a big speed boost, but the distances between planets are long, so every bit counts. So yeah, that is pretty much everything. Yep. Oh, I suppose I should also show you how to make a ship with the mill. So for every ship you make ever, you want a cockpit, because it's like a dome, but it doesn't even need any water. It just gives you oxygen for free. And then you want a control panel. Then you want spike engines. These are, I think, the best in the entire game. They aren't the fastest, but they are the most resource efficient. I mean, the most fuel efficient. There is this one later on, the alien drive. It is the fastest, but it's slightly less fuel efficient, so you only really want one, because it also just gives you the ability to stop yourself completely in place for a moment, which is very handy. So usually I put a cockpit, a control panel, and 3 spike engines, and also a space station core. Yeah. And then for fuel, I usually make a station mill, which is usually used for, making space stations. You can use it for pretty much anything, maybe for regular ships too. So, it's kind of like what I did when making our first ship, but I usually place a crate, and then I make a bunch of fuel drums, but those take a lot of natural gas, so it can take a minute sometimes. So just, I'm not gonna place as many as I usually do, but just place a bunch of those. It helps to also have a bunch of station mills. But if I'm ever waiting on the fuel drum, I'll usually just add fuel tanks to kind of like that, and then I'll just place the fuel drum once the station mill gets enough resources. Then you saw off the crate, and then you have fuel. As you can see, the 3 spike engines are much faster than the 3 regular engines. When you're like pretty high up, you can use the space station core to kind of freeze in place. But if you're on computer, you can press C to activate it, or N to unactivate it, or deactivate it. But if you are not on computer, you have to click on the space station core itself, which can be a bit annoying sometimes. Okay, anyways, that's it. I'm gonna do, well, at least that's all I'm gonna do for this tutorial. So, yeah.